Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Love at First Laugh, the Green Room edition. And today I'm super excited because I have a good friend of mine who I absolutely adore. You have seen her on Too Close for Comfort and Curb Your Enthusiasm. She will talk about her road to recovery today. And she has a million amazing stories, and I love them all. Please welcome the amazing Lydia Cornell.
Hi,
Hi, Lydia.
hi, beautiful Grace. I miss you. You're such a sweetheart. I'm
Oh,
trying to
so
share
are
this.
you.
Wait a second. Let me share it. Sharing it.
Okay.
Technology is not my forte.
Okay, good. For those out there, she needs to share the live broadcast on her page. So she's doing that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot of people tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we are going to have a great talk with Lydia about her recovery. So I'll just leave it up to you to start telling us your story of how it all started.
So you want to talk? We were talking about my recovery. How
Yes,
about?
your recovery. Yes.
Oddly enough, it started, of course, in childhood. I'm realizing now through I haven't had a lot of psychotherapy, but I had a spiritual, I call it a catastrophic spiritual awakening in 1994, 25 years ago, on September 11th, 1994. And it started in childhood. And I think it's so important for parents to tell their kids they're valuable and loved.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I have the same kind of parent. I had a parent that was incredibly abusive to me. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to her, we didn't know she was bipolar until 3 years ago.
Right.
My mother, and I love my mother. And I have to tell you, I have to jump to the future right now, to the present, because in February, I went to see her in the nursing home. We're taking care of them in a board and care. And I sat down with her, and after all the things we've been through in life, and you'll hear a little bit of that, I held her in my arms, and I looked her in the eyes, and I said, I love you so much, Mom. You were the best mother that could possibly be. You were the best mother in the world. That's all she ever wanted to hear from me. And I never could completely forgive her.
Wow.
And she just wept in my arms. It was like complete forgiveness. And I feel that that's the full circle I came to through sobriety and recovery. But
wow,
recovery isn't about quitting drinking. It's about filling the hole in your heart,
right?
The hole in your soul.
Yeah, especially when you have a mentally ill mother, that doesn't know and is not medicated, and then they abuse you, and you're like, you don't understand. Do they love me? Do they hate me? So you're basically looking for love. That's what you're doing. You have to fill that emptiness. So you try to look for love through
all the wrong places. Right? I came to Hollywood seeking the adoration of strangers, thinking fame would fill me up. A lot of people love me. Maybe I'll feel love. No way.
No.
Hollow fame is very hollow. It's very shallow, unless you find it for the creative purpose of actually doing your art and loving the art. I mean, I love comedy. I love writing. I love playing with other actors, playing with you, doing comedy with people, and creating. But it took me a while to get back to my art. Yeah. But to make a long story short, when I was a little girl, my mom, I was born in El Paso, Texas, to a mother who said you have to look perfect at all times. I had long sausage curl ringlets, and she would spend hours doing my hair every day. And I was like, Mom, I'm basically a creative tomboy at heart. And I tend to be girly to fit in, And she was, if one hair was out of place, she would scream at me in rage.
Oh.
And I remember feeling constantly under pressure to be perfect.
Yeah.
And my dad was born in Russia, raised in Shanghai. He was a Shanghai violinist who was trapped during World War II. He was trapped by the Japanese when they invaded China, and he had to stay there. He was admitted to the Curtis Institute of Music, and his dreams were crushed. He couldn't leave China.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't have been born if he came any earlier, but he came to America, met my mother at the Hollywood Bowl. He was playing violin. He was extremely aristocratic and beautiful and very artistic. And when he came to El Paso, he became a Russian cowboy.
Oh, wow.
So, 10-gallon hat, and he owned a roofing business.
That's funny.
Yeah. So he was very silent and mysterious and exotic. My mother was perfect, like a beautiful woman. And in high school, we moved to New York, which was really a culture shock. I'd never seen trees before.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like I'd seen trees. El Paso's all desert.
Yeah.
but we hung out in Albuquerque and we met, Las Cruces, New Mexico for vacations. And then we moved to Scarsdale, and I was like, I want to be Jewish. I want to be a Jewish male comic. It was an all-Jewish community of extremely wealthy people, and we didn't fit in. I was the outcast, a total nerd. My father was a violinist. He got this amazing job offer to start in the shipping industry, but I remember not fitting in, being the only person that wasn't Jewish in my whole group of kids. And I'm standing in front of the mirror getting ready to go to my first date on, to junior prom, 16 years old. And I'm standing there combing my hair to hide my acne. I had really bad skin.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was trying to cover, my hair was the only thing I had. My hair was my security blanket.
Your crown. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
totally.
My hair covered up all the flaws of the acne. I had to so I had my one date coming up, junior prom, 16 years old. My parents wouldn't allow me to date. They were very strict. And I'm in front of mom's full-length mirror, combing my hair over my zits, and it was down to my waist. And my mom walks by, and she had this look on her face, like, she said, "You think you're pretty with that long hippie hair." And she grabbed me by the hair. She pulled out the largest pair of sewing scissors we owned. They're garden shears. They were like this big.
Oh my God.
And in my mind, I'm like, I think I blacked out, and she proceeded to cut it off above my hairline.
Oh my God.
It wasn't even attractive for a pixie cut. It was like the ugliest hair.
Oh my God.
We're exposed. I couldn't go to the prom. My dad was in Japan on a business trip, and he brought home a human hair wig. It was all Japanese hair, long black hair, and I had to wear that. I wore that to school.
Oh my God.
And I had one gay friend in high school named Monroe Mendelsohn. And he tried to help me. He put on a scarf, a babushka, and we went to the senior prom a year later. My hair grew back a little, but it was like, I remember this happening, and I remember screaming. And then I remember my mother falling down to my knees, begging forgiveness, like she didn't mean to do it. And it was like a very weird Betty Davis, Joan Crawford moment,
Wow.
So that was like some childhood stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And growing up with a mentally ill mother, it's anything triggers them, and you never know what it is, and their reactions are so like,
oh yeah,
insane. You're like, what just happened? It's like she cut her hair. What triggered her?
If I said something to her, I smiled at her once, and she would get that grin off your face. What is that bit? And I was going, I'm loving you right now. I'm giving you a loving. Wow. Nothing you never knew.
Wow. Yeah, it's unpredictable all the way, and it's nerve-wracking.
It's debilitating.
Yeah, it's absolutely, yeah. And you're always waiting for that explosion, right? You're always like, when are they going to explode? What am I going to do wrong? And that's why you want it to be perfect.
If a child doesn't feel love, they don't grow up with any self-esteem. And I really believe, I wrote this joke once, that low self-esteem should be classified as a disability, because it's like, like we need tax benefits for. So many people go shoot up schools and go into rages because they have such lack of love. It provokes and promotes envy. Mm-hmm. If you love yourself, you're not about to be mad at anyone. You're kind of happy for other people when they're successful.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And it's that, so you had that desire to be perfect, that feeling of not being loved, which is the worst thing. So you come to LA, right?
Well, first, before that, I went to college.
Okay.
Boulder, Colorado. I went to college, and I couldn't wait to get away from home. I, stay all my time in Colorado, skiing, working at the rock and roll studio with the Beach Boys and everyone. And I remember the first semester break. First of all, I went to college and I said, "Mom, whatever you do, don't give away my Barbies." I had the original Barbie, Ken and Midge, not the original, but like a very valuable vintage Barbie. And she had the red bubble cut hairdo, and the Ken doll with the arm missing. The Ken doll had real limbs that you could pull.
Yeah.
And he had hair made of fuzz. And I remember I had this whole Barbie doll dream house, and I packed it away into the corner of our vast attic in the Victorian house we lived in. And sure enough, I come home my first Christmas break, and they're gone. She goes, "I gave those away. You didn't need those things." So now that I have a boy, who didn't, I never give away anything of his, Yeah. Like I'm a little bit paranoid about it. Mm-hmm. I have all the Thomas Tank engines in the garage, everything. But So I carried a resentment for 20 years against my mother for giving me my Barbies.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
So in 1994, I remember I'd had a baby out of wedlock. I was a single mom. I had a brand new baby, 6 months old, and I was, oh gosh, this was a really, really, whenever I tell the story in a recovery meeting, it starts like this. I was standing at the top of the stairs, holding my brand new baby in my arms, going into a complete blackout. I was a radioactive drunk, and I'd been drinking all night long, straight Stoli out of a bottle.
Wow.
And there was a long lead up to that point of that happening. I hadn't been drinking during the pregnancy, but as soon as he was born. And it's tough to talk about this stuff in a way, but the robot was ringing down below, and I went into a complete blackout. And I don't remember how I got down the stairs.
Wow.
But I got down safely with my baby. And I remember the fuzziness of my mother opening the door with my Uncle Sonny. She was going to show off the new baby and come over. And I was supposed to be dressed in white gloves. Wow. And it was noon, and I was in my nightgown, and it was like a Tennessee Williams play. It was Streetcar Named Desire. And the horror in her eyes, and they took the baby away from me for a few days. I mean, I went to bed. I sobered up. And leading up to this weekend, I've been driving around to Labor Day barbecues with the baby. And there's a lot of this other stuff I'll tell another meeting one day. But it was so weird because a few days later, I went to dinner at my sister's house, and they invited me for dinner. A week later, I still had the baby with me. I had a nanny living in. My mom and sister came to stay for a while. And then one day, my sister went home. She says, come home for dinner one night. So I walked down the road. She lived 2 blocks away in Beverly Hills. And I said, I walk in, and there's a doctor from Brotman Hospital. My brother is there, my baby brother, Paul, my sister, and my mother. And it was an intervention. And they said, what is this? They go, if you don't quit drinking, we're taking that baby away from you. And I went, he's the problem. He's the pothead. I pointed at my brother. And they said, you're the one with the baby, though. And I promised the doctor I'd go to the hospital the next day to talk to the psychologist. So I go in the next day in a black short wig and red lipstick.
Black.
I thought I was too famous to get sober.
That's hilarious.
Little did I know everyone in town that's creative is sober, or everyone with a problem is doing this amazing program. So I said, I don't want anyone to know who I am. I'm incognito. And he goes, Lydia, everyone in town is in this program.
Right.
So you're not alone. And, and anyway, wouldn't you rather be sober? We thought it was somebody who really did this. And I always thought sobriety was going to be really hard.
Right.
It's a miracle, actually. So what happened was I promised him, I said to him, what does it mean? Come 28 days to rehab? He goes, 28 days in rehab, but you can't see your baby. You can't have your baby live with you. And I went, no, I can't do that. So I went home. That weekend, I made a decision. On September 11th, 1994, I floated. I was drunk all weekend. I had one last bingy weekend. And I floated into the Good Shepherd Church in Beverly Hills. It's a women's meeting. And as I walk in this meeting with sunglasses and a hat, I hear someone at the podium say, a woman at the podium, she says this. She's speaking. She's the speaker that day. She says, if you've wandered into this room and you don't know if you're an alcoholic, let's put it this way. Virgins don't take pregnancy tests.
Right.
The whole room roared of laughter. And there was this smell of coffee and cinnamon pastries and bright, shiny women that looked happy. And there was joy and laughter. And
right.
I know from showbiz, very, very prominent people. And I thought, this doesn't look like a bunch of alcoholics. This is like, and I remember sitting there in my chair and they said, are there any newcomers present, any alcoholics? And my hand shot up on its own volition.
It went by, wow.
Without my permission. And I'm like, and at that moment, tears poured down. I couldn't stop crying. I cried a river of 20 years of hell lifted off me by the admission alone. That was my first surrender. My first prayer.
That's amazing. I love that.
My first prayer. And then a miracle happened, which is the Godshot, which is unbelievable right after that.
What happened after that?
Is there a commercial break first?
A commercial break first. Okay.
So anyway, so I'm standing there and no one knows the story about my mom and the Barbies. Like I've already had a fight with her 3 times the week before over this.
Mm-hmm.
Some really weird things happened around me, accusing her. I couldn't let go.
Mm-hmm.
Barbie was in the news. Vintage Barbie was skyrocketing in value. They were doing a Barbie musical on Broadway. And I'm like, I kept kind of putting the knife in her about it every time I could bring it up. And it's like 20 years ago already.
Yeah.
And so at the meeting that day, no one knows this about this story, but at the meeting that day, a woman, a wife of a big actor, said to me, Lydia, let's go home. Let's go home to your house and have coffee.
Yeah.
Called the fellowship afterward. And I went, okay. And I brought her home to my place at a townhouse in Beverly Hills. And there's a little garden. And we sat outside. And she said this to me out of the blue. She said, you're going to overcome every resentment you ever had in this program. For example, I overcame a lifelong resentment against my mother for giving away my Barbies. And the hair on my neck.
Wow.
I just felt like I went, am I in the Twilight Zone? Am I on a hidden camera show?
Right.
I know, I really felt like a weird,
like a supernatural thing. Yeah. Like that was
this coincidence was too uncanny to be just
of course.
And it felt like my whole life was off track, and then it was suddenly snapped into some sort of divine alignment.
I love it.
And I never had a craving to drink since that day. But I put in the actual, I went to meetings every day. I had hundreds of these coincidences that were so uncanny. It was like, there is something out there that loves us. It's like,
oh yeah,
force of love that will pick you up at your lowest moment if you'll just surrender.
You have to surrender and be vulnerable. Yeah, absolutely. That's key for everything.
Give up your old ideas and your old willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And to realize I'm trying too hard to fit a square peg into a round hole. I'm going to walk away from the worry and the fear. And at that moment, just believing there was a power greater than me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have to do that much at that point. I had to simply admit, which is step one. And then I came to believe in a power greater than myself. And you can call it a doorknob. You don't have to believe in a religion at all.
Absolutely. No, you don't have to.
But try to stop the ocean waves and see if you don't believe there's a power greater than you.
Exactly. Whatever works, different people believe in different things. How did this affect your family? Like, how did your family react when you were like on the road to recovery?
Well, I was so quickly off the bad. I was on a light beam. It felt like I was so happy. For the first 5, I've been happy throughout sobriety. I've had a lot of, other issues. I've had cravings for chocolate and bad men and,
well, yeah, we all do. Yeah. That's universal, right?
My parents were thrilled. My mother didn't quite ever get it, and I wish she had. But a lot of stages of our growth happened. I forgave her. Mm-hmm. That was level 1 of forgiveness. I had to go back and forgive again and again and again. Of course. Yeah. Because once you help yourself and you start to change, people around you act differently. They change.
Of course. Yeah.
Is like, I'm detaching from that toxic person with love. I'm just going to not engage in the battle. I don't argue anymore, although politically I sometimes find myself biting my tongue not to say.
Same here. Not to say anything. But yeah, that's the thing, releasing toxic people with love. I've been working on that myself. So how do you do that? Is there something that you do that helps you?
I was going to show you.
Not engage with them.
Okay, I don't think anyone can truly ever really solve their own problems. I'm positive that the higher thoughts are the thoughts of love, this universal force of love, which I call it God.
Yeah.
But it's so loving, and it's not at all like the archaic religions teach us. There's no fear in punishing God at all. God is love, pure love. So no matter how far down you've fallen, no matter what you've done, you're always redeemable. You're always, every day is a brand new start. So what I do is I shake off, like I had some really bad guilt. Guilt and regret are not from the source of love.
No.
Those things that make you feel terrible, you learn your lesson and you move forward. The destruction of so-called sin is by walking in the other direction, turning away from it. You don't punish yourself and chant a million different prayers over it. Religion is man-made, and God is the force of love inside all mankind, I believe, in all of our hearts. Mm-hmm. And the only thing you have to do is stop worrying. It's really hard to do though. So
It
if you,
really is. Yeah, but worry comes from fear. So
yes, worry
yeah,
comes from fear, and anger comes from fear. Fear of not getting
absolutely.
what
Two
you want.
sides of the same coin, right?
Exactly. Not getting what
Yeah.
you want and losing what you have, Fear of all fear. Fear is the worst. And
The worst. Yeah, and it's so prevalent in humanity. We all have fear.
so how do we deal with this fear with COVID? I mean, how are you dealing with it?
Um, I try not to be afraid because fear actually lowers your immunity. It's not good. So I think about it in those terms. So I'm like, okay, I'm protecting myself by not being afraid. Of course, you have to be cautious and
Yeah.
intelligent about it. But if you're afraid, I mean, you can get anything can happen in your life. You can get COVID. You can get hit by a bus. Whatever. So yeah. So
Do you think I don't think we're put on earth, put here in this
yeah.
incarnation of what we are doing here, to be just a collection of body parts that need a pill for every body part and a drug for every mood and a constant worry about the making it and achieving more and more and more. We're not here for that. We're here for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I shed my selfishness, I used to have this line. I read somewhere, it was a philosopher, a quote by that great philosopher, Russell Brand, who said, all my suffering.
Where are you getting your inspiration from, Lydia?
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I
It's just that great philosopher, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
All my suffering is a result of thinking about myself too much.
Yes, exactly.
Self-centered fear. And then we start to resent other people. And
Right.
then
Because you compare yourself. It's all ego based.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So what do you think? Like I always think every time I go into like fear and anger, I'm like, okay, what is my mission? What am I here for?
Right.
And my personal feeling is I'm here to love and help others. Okay. So what is your mission? What do you feel you're here to do?
I used to think it was to make people laugh.
Yes. Well, that too. Yes.
I end up laughing all day. Even when things are horrifying, I can find humor in it.
I know. Isn't that terrible that we can do that? I know a comedian like, I know people are like, wow. Yeah. I just make fun of like COVID sometimes. And some of my clients, my swimming clients, I'm like, what? Yeah.
Oh my God. If you give laughter is my favorite drug. And I really think it's healing. I think maybe Too Close for Comfort was a really dorky show at times, but we made people laugh, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also I found out that if you're a caregiver or you're around someone who's sick, just by being loving, that's half the battle. People who are ill or feel neglected, if you just tell them you love them and you send them flowers or you send them hearts, that's half of the healing power right there. It's the attentive, loving nurses that heal.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. To me, I'm always falling up. That's the title of my recovery book, Falling Up. The other book, the humor book, is Hiding My Brain in My Bra, which I'm still.
Yeah.
And I used to be so ambitious, ruthlessly ambitious. I wanted
Really?
I want to be the great Pulitzer Prize winning writer, and I wanted everyone to think I wrote the great American novel. And I remember I was writing a book on Stalin's plot to kill Trotsky to show off how brilliant I was. It was like ego.
Oh no, it's all ego based. I know. We all of us do that.
Yeah, we all do that.
Yeah, we all do it. It's so silly.
Some money miracles through surrender. In the beginning of my surrender process, the 5 years when I was on a pink cloud in recovery, I was so open to the universe showing me your magic. I kept saying, what's next? I didn't ever look at the negative. I'm telling you, if you start thinking negative thoughts,
yes,
your experience of life will be very negative.
I agree 100%. You create your own reality. You really do.
Totally.
Your words, your thoughts and your words are so powerful.
But think about this. It's hard. You can say that to people and they go, yeah, but it doesn't make sense. It's easier said than done. But if you think about what you see all day in your viewfinder, if you're Pollyanna and you're looking at the beauty's going to be all you see. It makes sense. It's logical.
Yeah.
But we our human mortal mind tends to want to go toward the hunter-gatherer instinct. What's dangerous? We got to be in fear. We got to protect ourselves. What I need more for me, and that it's really interesting because I don't think you can solve this yourself. That's why I think you need to believe in something greater, that the power of love is there to hold you up.
Great.
So I was out of money. I was out of money. The IRS was coming after me for a huge debt.
Wow.
It wasn't that. It was $11,000. And they said, and I kept saying, can I have a payment plan? They wouldn't do it. My kid was.
They wouldn't do a payment plan? What?
This is a certain time in my life. I'd had too many payment plans and I wanted this money. And I was like, oh, they're going to take $11,000 out of my IRA. So I got on my knees and I said, well, if it works for everything else, it worked for alcoholism. It worked for meeting my husband. Literally, I surrendered it.
Right.
And I said, I can't solve this by myself. And I remember the day I prayed, I just said, if there's a God, and I don't ever believe in religion, so this is not a religious.
No, religion is based on fear. What you're saying is based on love. So it's two different things.
Exactly. Yeah. So I said, I surrender this money problem. Show me the way. Show me what I need to do. I didn't worry. The rest, it was really weird. I didn't worry. The very next day, this is going to sound crazy, I got a letter from the state of California saying there was $12,000 in a bank account of yours from 1986.
What?
That it's been collecting interest to get your money.
Yeah.
Prove that your name is Natasha Kornilov. And my name's Lydia Kornilov. It's the Russian name, but I chose Natasha as my fake middle name for years, right? Now, I couldn't prove I was named Natasha Kornilov. And then I realized I put the name Natasha on my child's legal birth certificate for some bizarre reason. I put Lydia Natasha Cornell.
Wow.
And I sent them a copy of the birth certificate, my passport, and they sent me $12,000. And I'm like, wow, what a sweet little solution.
Yeah.
At the time, Other things, a lot of those things happen all the time. Like
when you surrender, when it's like, when you're worried and planning, then I find that doesn't work. But when I surrender and I'm like, okay, this is what I would love to happen, but whatever is your plan, God, I'm cool with it. Just like that. It's like prayers are answered like that.
When I'm doing my own ego-centered bullshit, excuse my language,
don't worry.
That's all right. It took me for years to start using the F word. I forbade my kids to use the F word. And then I went on stage in comedy clubs going, I want to use the F word now. And this one club said, no, we can't use it in this place.
What club says you can't use the F word? Clubs, that's mandatory. What?
That club that I'm the founder of with LG Ross, that comedy, serving up comedy.
Oh, that one. Yes, you have to be cleaning up down that show. Oh my God, I know, it's so hard.
I'm looking forward to using the F word. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait, I get up on stage and they go, no.
Oh my God. So here, look, we have some people. Everybody's like, they love you, of course. Surprise.
I love you all. I love everyone. I had this like universal love for humanity today, and I was like crying.
No, I know. We have to have that. Yes, and compassion. So here he's saying, Mike, he's saying so many gifts come from surrender. Do you believe that?
Oh gosh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surrender meaning when you're at your wit's end and there's no other way to go, and you flow like water. If there's a wall, water flows over it, under, and through the cracks. You just flow. Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Mom always used to say that. Yeah. Just go with the flow. Wherever I had an issue, I was like, what should I do? What should I do? She's like, Graciela, just go with the flow. Go with the flow. Thank you. I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
Mom. But
I forgot to tell you a really cool God. Go ahead. Is there another question?
Go ahead. Is there another question? You're like, come on, go ahead. Let's get the questions.
No, I was gonna say, the way I do metaphysics.
Yes.
Is that I love this quote by Einstein. No problem can be solved at the same level it was created on.
Ooh.
You can't cure alcoholism with more alcohol and drugs. You can't fight fire with fire. Right. You can't solve war with bombs.
I love it.
You can't really achieve peace that way. You have to go to a spiritual or a diplomatic solution. And the spiritual solution, people are so afraid of God and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm always reticent to use the word God because people have had a fear and punishing relationship with God, or they've had a terrible religious upbringing. But
Right.
when I found out that it's this wonderful relief from all my burdens, that I can actually
Right.
cast burdens in the Bible, it says, cast your burdens on the Lord.
Yes.
I
Yes.
put them all in God's lap. I never have been happier in my life than when I turn my thoughts immediately over to, what's next?
Yeah.
Show
You
me
don't worry. Yeah. It's true. Whenever we try so hard to plan and to solve problems, it never works. At least my experience has always been that way. So tell me, what were the highlights of your road to recovery? Like highlights that you can think of.
the Godshots. And then I got married
Love
and
that.
I fell down to earth a little because I'm
Oh, yeah, you got married. Okay, we know that story. We know how that story goes. So
my husband left me for Gene Simmons. He went on the road with Kiss and he bit. Anyway, I've written so much comedy about my marriage and it's turned out to be the biggest gift. And then in everything that's bad in life, something good remains. Only the good remains. Only the good is real. Now, if you don't believe that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Try thinking of life as all good all the time. Because if you think of duality, bad versus good, you never win. It's always fighting each other. Just think everything's good. Go to the higher plane of thought and seek the highest thought. And I remember when my husband left me, he wanted to end the marriage, and I found out he had a girlfriend somewhere. I still love him. We're very good friends. He makes me laugh hysterically, but we got married to heal the ancient wounds of our childhoods, our respective
Right.
children.
That's one of those relationships. Yeah.
He had the same kind of parenting thing I had, and we did it while we were together, and we raised 2 little boys together, his son, my son, and it was a great marriage. So I look back, I go, wow, everything was really perfect. It was a horrible, if you look at the outside, we got, a lot of craziness going on, but now I feel like it was all a gift. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
It's really the past. By the way, when you have an accident and you say you have a broken leg, or I have friends who have back pain and they go, it's my sciatica. I had an accident 20 years ago and I'll never recover. Marrying yourself to that thought of the accident keeps the wound stuck in your body.
Absolutely.
Forget it. Walk away from that belief.
I love that.
The past.
Move forward. Yeah. The past is the past. Learn from it and move on. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So here, let's see, we have like something that's not related to recovery. We have a question from Dave. Hi, Dave. Lydia, I keep hearing that on the set of Caddyshack that every day was a party. Some of the aspects of that, including the excessive drinking and the drug use at night, was not a fan of. Did Ted ever share this with you? Oh, wow.
Yeah. He sort of came to work the first days. Our pilot was picked up after we filmed it in the spring, and then we come back to work after I went to Greece to do a movie in the summer, and then we're back to work. It was an actor strike, that's right. So we were back to work in September or November. Ted was raging about the set. He said, those people, those drug addicts, and those debauchery. So it's like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And but he would whenever he would be mad, he would burst out laughing in a cackle right after the debauchery, and they go, you have to see. I mean, Ted was so fun to be with. He really liked Chevy Chase, whereas I don't hear a lot of people have a great experience of
Really?
Murray. But Rodney, see, Ted came back from the set and he would go, whenever there was anyone late coming to the camera,
Yeah.
I was in my dressing room and they would say, Lydia. He would go, while we're young. And Rodney Dangerfield on Caddyshack said, while we're young. While we're young. I know I'm performing shtick right now. Rodney
It's going right over my head.
in the movie Caddyshack, Rodney Dangerfield would keep going, while we're young, about the golf caddies.
Oh, okay.
Golf with them. So Ted adopted Rodney's same joke, but did his own intonation on it. So that's the only memory I have.
That's it. Okay. Okay.
Of that.
Here we have Aaron Whitney. Hi, Aaron. The hardest day to stay sober is tomorrow. That is because you are unaware of what is waiting to sabotage your sobriety. So do you have any stories where your sobriety was sabotaged?
You have to, first of all, you can't let an outside event, like the storm, the crash of the stock market, any outside event can't ruffle your inner peace. once you have the real kind of sobriety I'm talking about, and it's a daily reprieve. Our sobriety is based on a maintenance of our spiritual condition, which means our ability to trust the higher power, which is loving. And I've had, God, I'm sad. I have 1,000 crazy drug and drunk stories. My drunkalog is hilarious, and it's got some. I went to an audition once for a famous producer who he loved my work, and he won an Oscar later for a movie, and he said, "Lydia, I want you to come read for the lead in the pilot." And I went, "Okay." So I fill an entire Evian bottle up with vodka, and I put it.
God.
And I'm so blitzed by the time I get to the studio. I have perfume to spray away the smell of vodka. And I put the gym bag in the ladies' room at the network, big network, in the executive ladies' room. I stush the gym bag underneath the sink, and I go running in and out of there to swig until they call my name. I enter the room, and there's 7 men, producers, executives, and the director all there. And I was wearing stiletto high heels and skin-tight jeans. And I literally tripped into the room, and the button on my jeans popped off, and I flipped over onto the couch. And I bounced back up, and I went, "Oh." And I sort of just had to read the lines, and I couldn't get them out.
Oh, no.
I was a radioactive. It was horrifying. That was like the worst.
Oh, my God.
How many years I lived with that guilt until I got sober. It was like, that wasn't even the worst thing. And then one time I was starring in a play, and I had gone out with Don Simpson, who produced Top Gun, all those shows. And I went to his house the night before, and we ended up doing cocaine all night. And I didn't show up for my own play.
Oh, my God.
Which caused the director to quit show business altogether.
Oh, my God. Damn.
It's not funny. It's like.
No, I know, but damn.
But you would never think you could overcome these kind of horrors.
Yeah.
Some way worse things until you get sober, and then you realize, wow, everything added up, the domino effect to what I am now. And if I hadn't had that particular sobriety, I wouldn't have this child. You know, if one domino hadn't been in place, I wouldn't have Jack, this amazing life, which is all an inside job.
Absolutely.
So I think, nothing's ever tempted my sobriety, oddly enough. It's so weird. I have never felt tempted to drink. I mean, I don't even think, I couldn't imagine doing that to my sponsees and to people who you're trying to help. You know what I mean? It's like, although it's quite common. In fact, I shouldn't say that. I should knock on wood, because it could happen tonight. In fact, it's a daily reprieve. And so I better not be cocky about that.
Well, so far you can say that you haven't had a desire to drink or do anything, right?
But I have a desire to screw up my life. It's not like, you're
right.
You know, I don't choose that as my drug of choice anymore, alcohol and drugs. I know they don't work. I know they kill my brain cells. I know it eats your brain alive. I have a friend who did meth, and his gums are gone, his teeth are gone, his brain is fried. Alcohol just poisons the liver, and my stepsister died of full-blown alcoholism at 49 years old.
Oh my God.
She went AWOL from the Navy, was a brilliant girl, and drank herself to death. And my brother, I didn't tell this story, and I need to tell it.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
My baby brother, whom I yelled at in the recovery, in the intervention, I said, "Look at him, he's a pothead."
Yeah, that one.
My little brother, whom I love with all my heart and soul, 1 year after, in December 1995, I found his body. And he tried heroin 3 times. He was a concert pianist, an incredibly beautiful soul, gorgeous guy, very fragile. And he was dead. I found his body. And it was like I was sober. And I didn't think I could stay sober through that. Or my future wedding, where you have to drink champagne, all these things. But I remember I called his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend for 10 years that he loved madly. They had been going through some hard breakup stuff. She was the vice president at Neiman Marcus in Dallas. I called her and I said, "Vicki, Paul died." She sobbed hysterically. "I'm coming to the funeral." She gets in the car, drives through Denver in a snowstorm, drinking, and kills an entire family and herself in a head-on collision. An 8-year-old little boy in the other car.
Oh my God. I'm so
and
sorry.
Alcoholism kills. Alcohol kills. Alcohol.
Yes.
You can't fucking drink and drive.
No.
And you can't solve this with human means. There's no pill for it. It's a genetic predisposition mixed with an allergy and a lot of us have very, very low self-esteem in the beginning. I mean, you overcome that through the program. The steps are this is the easier way. I couldn't imagine trying to moderate my drinking. And then,
of course, you can't, right? And it's
knowing that it kills brain cells is enough for me right now. I want all my brain cells.
Right. It's like, I don't know if it's the same, but I had a narcissistic ex that approached me a few days ago, and I had to call a friend of mine. And I was like, I really want to connect with him, but I know the consequences are going to be terrible because I've been through this before. And so she said something so beautiful. She said, okay, whenever you want to call him, just think, do I love myself or do I want to call him?
Oh, wow.
I was like, that just was so genius.
Oh,
that every time I thought about calling him, I had, okay, no, I love myself more than
that's beautiful.
Not love myself, which would be calling him.
Oh, I love that.
So that's one thing, that I don't know if it works, if you're an alcoholic, but that it works for me. Which being with a narcissist is kind of like an addiction if you grew up with a narcissistic parent.
So you were healing those wounds in yourself by avoiding him. In other words, that's healed now in you, I hope, I think. Yeah.
No, I think it is. Yeah. I don't want to go through that drama. Thank you very much. Passing on that.
Yeah. I have some people in my life that I'm bewildered by, to the point where for the past 3 years I've been gaslighted by a really close family member. It's so bizarre that I thought I was going insane. I went, how could
that's the whole point of them gaslighting you, because they put it on you. So you're like, am I going crazy? No. Mm-mm.
And I still get riled up a little inside. I go, wait a minute, forgive her, love her, forgive. And this happened when I found out my ex-husband. We'd been divorced for quite a few years, and he was a bit of a con artist and stuff, but I still loved him. He was fun, and he was a great dad, a great stepdad, and we traveled the world together, had a lot of fun. Then I find out he's getting married. I saw it on Facebook, and I went, oh, and it hurt me like a knife in my heart. This was in 2015. And I just felt like a knife in my heart, like a burning ache.
Yeah. And
I got in my car. I went, I need a meeting. What's the highest thought? Give me the highest thought. That's what I said. The minute I said that, I heard this: forgive him. Ooh. Forgive him, pray for her. Forgive him, pray for her, his wife. I called up his friend, and he said, she's dying of cancer. And I just started sobbing for the woman he's going to marry. And that's not human. That's not human power. I was not normally inclined to love the woman marrying him, but I prayed for her, and I realized that that's the highest thought that's God's thought telling me to calm down and not be jealous,
Absolutely. And I think, fear and anger are low vibration feelings, or whatever feelings, whatever they are. And love, joy, and peace are higher. So I think another thing is, like, whenever we want to go to anger and fear, which we're very used to, and they're very addictive, then just think, okay, do I want to relish? And it's like mud wrestling, if you're like there and do I really want to get myself dirty, or fly and feel light and happy? So if you want to fly and feel light and happy, go to the higher vibration feeling. So that's what you do. And I love that. You do that all the time. I know.
It's hard. It's practice. By the way, all this stuff takes practice. And I keep forgetting. Oh my God. I heard today from my friend who said, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Because I'm always beating myself up for not finishing my book. And it's like, I want the book to give me everything I already have right now. I have everything I want. I'm just going to be grateful. And it's really interesting. I never knew this until during my divorce. There was a moment where I went outside the house. We had this big house on the corner where all the kids used to come over from, both sets of kids had all their friends over every day. And then suddenly everyone was gone. My husband was leaving the marriage with his kid. They were going to the KISS tour in Europe for the summer. My son was going with his dad for the summer. And I'm left alone in this huge, big haunted house. It felt haunted.
Wow.
And I went into my stepson's room. I'm not going to be living with him anymore after this, He's 13, 14. I go in his room, and there's the fingerprints we put on the wall of his little hands dipped in paint, all the little things he wrote. And I just had to close the door. And I went outside and I started grieving on the front lawn. And I sat there and I looked up and I was sitting under a fig tree. And I go, I never knew we had a fig tree in this yard. That's how unconscious I was in the marriage. The whole time I'm like, Pokemon parties, Yu-Gi-Oh parties. Everything was for everybody but me.
Yeah.
I remember being a very big, I wanted that white picket fence marriage to last forever. And I looked up and I saw the fig tree, had no fruit on it. And I realized, I've never seen fruit on this tree. Well, cut to a year later after I'd come through all this spiritual stuff, my second level of recovery, it wasn't drinking, but I didn't drink through any of this stuff, but I was still growing. At the end of that year, the whole tree was full of figs. It's like my life had come to fruition. And the pathway as a writer was starting to bloom. And I remember that phrase, bloom where you're planted. And then as I'm sitting there grieving, this butterfly comes around my head and I'm like, I never liked butterflies. I never knew butterflies were so beautiful.
Yeah.
I became obsessed with butterflies. There was a whole nature experience that summer. And the words that came to me are, the universe is interactive. It wants to play with us. But we're never present enough to appreciate what's right in front of us. Yeah. So we can't enjoy the gifts. And so it's going to give you whatever you want. But I'm in regret or fear, worry, or whining about the past or worrying about the future. I'm not here now. And I started to be in the present and all these gifts started coming. Like amazing things.
When we're in the present, we're paying attention, like you're saying, and that's so important to pay attention because you can be having signs of things, and you're like totally missing the point. And then that's when we mess up. So, we've been talking for like 45 minutes. Oh my God. I can go. No, almost 45. We can go on and on and on, but you know what? I want you to come back and talk some more. So let's leave them wanting more of Lydia, which I know they will.
You're the sweetest. I love you all. Stay safe. Stay safe.
Yeah, you guys stay safe. And thank you so much for all the beautiful comments and for staying on and listening to the wonderful Lydia and her inspirational stories and her amazing journey. I love you. I love you so much. You're amazing. You're an angel and you practice what you preach.
You do too, by the way.
Thank you.
I want to interview you. Now I have to interview you for Godshots. I haven't started that yet, but.
Oh my gosh. Well, we need to do, that's our next episode. This is like the second time. There's a third time for sure. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next. In 2 weeks, I'm not going to have a stream next weekend. I'm taking off. I'm going out of town. Yay. Yeah. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys soon.